It's now time to bring it all back. That's right. It's season 2 of Behind the Comic Book Podcast with Mr. 845 Social. Brought to you by Icon Comic Con.
Hey everybody, it's Mr. 845 here, and we are hanging out with more comic book creators, writers, and artists. And right now we have a special guest on. He's actually going to be talking about his book. Justin, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Justin Koch. I'm by day a lawyer, but writing comics is what I really love doing. And so I've written SWAT, which is the Secret Wizard Assault Team, and it's hard to explain. It's all over the place, but basically it's sort of like The Wire meets What We Do in Shadows. It's what if Harry Potter was just a loser who survived a school shooting. It's got a lot of layers to it. But it is more or less, kind of a What We Do in Shadows type thing, I guess, if you had to boil it down to one comparison. Supernatural horror comedy.
Now, before we get into anything, because I always like to put this out first, if somebody wanted to contact you or support you or help, either Kickstarter for, fundraising or what have you, or if they just wanted to follow you in general, what are kind of some of the channels that they could do that in? I know that, you're going to be starting up the Kickstarter, but what other channels do you have?
Well, my website's called weirdshark.art. I kind of settled on a label for my comics as Weird Shark Comics because I have that, which is a weird shark. Nice tattoo. So there's that. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Facebook. Just as Justin Koch. There's not a lot of us, so I don't know. My name's rare enough that I keep track of all the other Justin Kochs in the world, and most of them are dead.
He's trying to be the one,
Yeah, it's a Highlander situation for sure.
Yeah.
There was a guy that was the head of the New Zealand Sheepherder Association for a while named Justin Koch. There was a airline pilot, and he's been gone for ages. And then there was a horse in Vancouver named Justin Koch, and that's pretty much it. So,
okay, interesting.
Anyway,
you got even history on it.
Yeah, I've been Googling myself since before there was Google. So,
I think that was Ask Jeeves. I think that was back then.
That was contemporary. I don't know. The dog pile was. I used the Wired had a search engine for a while. The magazine. I mean, everybody had a search engine for a little bit, and they all sucked until Google came along. So
yeah, they definitely owned the brand, if you will. So let's talk about your brand, right? So you started SWAT. Take us through kind of the beginning. What took you to the stage of actually writing comic books? When did you first start wanting to write?
Well, I thought about writing comics for a long time. I've always liked them. Ever since I was a kid, I drew a comic for myself in high school, but I can't draw, and so it was pretty ugly. But I started writing them seriously about 3 or 4 years ago. I just kind of I wrote so many novels. I wrote like 8 or 9 or 10 novels in my 30s, trying to get a couple of them came out in really pathetic ways, but I just got really tired of writing novels, and I started writing comics. And I wrote Edge of Darkness first, which is another thing that I'm going to Kickstarter eventually, but we're doing rewrites right now. And then I was just sitting on a couch, staring at the blank screen, and then SWAT just started coming out. There was no real plan. I just started going, and it's been an absolute joy. For 18 months, I sat there and I wrote 36 issues of SWAT. Just back to back to back to back to back, and it was creatively the greatest time of my life, honestly. So
nice. I mean, so I know that you said you're a lawyer by day. Am I assuming like a criminal lawyer, or are you taking premise from that?
In the past, I have done like federal criminal cases, and there's a lot of that in SWAT for sure, because you see how the sausage gets made. I primarily do bankruptcies these days, though, and you still see some pretty messed up stuff that way, but not as much on the criminal side as I used to.
Okay. And then
So
from there, like, now that you have some of the influence, the experience in that field, did you see it draw you in to this book, and that's why you kind of cherished it so much?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the law kind of subtext in my feelings about law enforcement. I mean, I've been to a lot of jails, and usually not as an inmate, and they all are just they're awful.
I like how you
Um,
skipped over. Usually not as an inmate.
oh well, yeah, but it's complicated. I have a lot of complicated feelings about it because I mean, at the same time that I don't know, it's just it can be very complicated and harsh. And some jails are just sort of like I mean, they're so awful. Um, it's hard for me to see how this is making anything better. I guess I don't know. I don't have a better plan, but I got to feel like there's got to be something better than this.
No, I feel you.
This can't be the greatest way to do it. Um, so that feeds a lot into the frustrations. And I mean, to me, like Larry, and I don't know if you've read the issue, but Larry and Mimi are the two main characters, and they're very frustrated and burnt out. And I feel like I think that's the mood of America right now. Is just sort of like I'm tired of trying to keep everything together with baling twine and just sort of survive in this crap ass situation. And so they're feeling that a lot at the start of the series, and that drives a lot of their decision making. So
Yeah, so like let's kind of go into the story itself, so that way we could kind of get everybody kind of like a little teaser, if you will. So you mentioned the two protagonists,
mhm.
and
Larry and Mimi.
and now they are going to be like detectives. They're going to be giving like what point of view are they going to be given?
They're the SWAT detectives, which is a secret wizard assault team. It's not a SWAT team,
Okay, so it's
and so they're
S
kind of
dot W dot A dot T.
yeah, and it's kind of based off the original acronym for SWAT, which was Special Weapons and Tactics.
Okay,
So I took kind of ran with that. But anyway, so they're basically supernatural. They're the guys that handle supernatural crime in St. Louis, right? And they're but there's a grand bargain where the monsters get like 300 tags a year, right? And they can kill people, and it's legal, right? It's like you shot a deer. And so they're frustrated with that compromise, but that compromise also probably saves lives ultimately. And they're wrestling with how to operate in an imperfect world. But they're handed an ultimatum that they have to fire somebody on their team. And so basically, instead of that, they call in a tip on a vampire they know has been going over his bag limit anyway and free a red ball so that they can't fire anybody. And then that spirals out from there until they totally would have just let Tiny Tim get fired. That would have, if they'd known how it was going to play out. So.
and now with you launching, is this launching in a series, or are you going to be launching like book by book individually?
Right now, we're doing issue 1, which is already complete. The art's done and everything. We're just sort of introducing it to Kickstarter because we originally went with Zoop, which was, I mean, they're perfectly lovely people, but I felt like it was too difficult to try to sell myself and the platform at the same time. So we're trying to go to Kickstarter, and then what I would love to do is, 6-issue graphic novels, so they'd be about 120 pages, and just do it at one, that way. But obviously, that's kind of a major financial investment, and I don't feel like this is the time to do that. Everything's bananas.
Yeah.
People are cutting back. So graphic novels from some guy that you saw on a podcast is probably not where you're going to put $50 or whatever it would end up costing.
But it's smart. It
So
kind of
we're-
gets them enticed with the story, and it really kind of grounds them first and prepares them for the story, if you will, by going
Yeah.
comic book by comic book. The anticipation. I mean, I don't know if you've, what is your favorite series that you've kind of like inspired you throughout your life?
Well, I mean, throughout my life, I guess I'd have to go with, and I know this isn't the great answer, but in the 90s, I was really into Sandman, and that was
Okay.
before he was even a famous novelist or anything. So that was a really great series I that I really loved. And I mean, honestly, it was really hard to get I lived in a very small town, and we didn't have a comic store, right? So it was whatever was at the Walden Books is what I had, and so the graphic novel section was this big, like literally this big.
A
So
shelf.
Sandman was kind of the only thing I knew existed, right? And for a long time. But I went into, when I started getting interested in comics again, I went into the shop, my local store, which is Distant Planet in Columbia, and I got a copy of like the library edition of Harrow County. And that thing was just, it blew my mind. I'm like, this is so awesome. I've got to, start doing this. And so Harrow County is the modern series that I like has been really influential on me. I have all the library editions, and then I have like the $200 like omnibus signed by Cullen, and
Wow.
so that's a big one for me. There's so many awesome series right now. It's kind of hard to even talk about it like on a list level, but pretty much every time I go to the comic store, I pick up something that's awesome. And so I just really love the genre in general. I've been eating up those DC compact editions.
Mm-hmm.
I've been eating those up. I love how they're it's not they're the good stuff, and then it's also like $10. So if you end up hating it, so you don't feel like you lost too much.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the reason why I ask is because like you had to eventually give a comic book a chance and kind of find out like if you liked it or not, and that's what you did with Sandman. So this might actually be somebody's flavor, and they just don't know it yet. So the fact that you're going like book by book instead of doing a whole graphic novel, other than the investment part, is you're giving people a chance to digest and then kind of see what they want to anticipate next coming up, or even fan theory, fan fiction, if you will, and try to see what's going to happen next. So it kind of gives them a good inspiration to your book. Now I want to kind of delve. So you have SWAT, right? And then you basically have them as police officers or law enforcement, if you will. And then you also have the magic piece, right? So take me kind of like how you thought of this combination and bringing it together.
Like I said, I was just sitting at my computer, and I literally just popped it open and started writing almost verbatim. Like at least the first 5 pages are just almost. I mean, I cleaned it up, but it just it exploded. I just came out of nowhere. But there was zero lead up thought to it. Usually, there's some lead up thought to a new series for me, but this one was just that. But I don't know. I enjoyed. I think the point I'm trying to make with it to some degree is the way that the world of SWAT works is it's just like the wizards have cell phones because owls are obsolete and stupid. They've integrated technology into their life. They're not like, oh, I don't know how to use a computer. They're just like, this is just a part of their life, the same way that you having a smartphone is a part of your life, or me having these AirPods is a part. They don't consider it that big of a deal. But in the check on it is if you use it too much, reality kind of snaps back at you. It takes revenge if you use magic too much. So you can't just use it to heat your coffee. You're not going to fly to work, right? You're going to mostly leave it alone unless it's really important. And that's kind of how I keep a lid on it from from taking off into why don't they just go to Mordor, fly an eagle to Mordor or something like that kind of stuff.
And
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it kind of does. And now you're mentioning Mordor. Is this kind of like a multi universal type of book where they're kind of going to these different lands, or is it like a city district that you're kind of working?
Well, there's nothing copyrightable.
Okay.
But there's a lot of Lovecraft. There might be parodies of things, but mostly no. I mean, there's definitely a lot of Lovecraft influence in it for sure, because he's awesome. I mean, yes, he's racist, but he's really good at being scary. So, there's some Cthulhu people. There's like in Alaska, there's a colony of star spawn of Cthulhu, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all have red hats that say MRRA, make relay rise again. And that kind of thing. But mostly no. It's just I usually add a weird twist to the mythology of like the vampires got a few twists and turns where I play with the mythology a little bit, and change things up, but it's mostly just St. Louis, really, or settings in the real world that have become bizarre with the addition of magic.
So
Um,
I like basically what I was getting at. So you're not going to be outworldly, right? This is more like a city beat, kind of like a city feel, and people are kind of doing what they need to do, or like are they traveling the U.S., finding different like a supernatural type of beat, or is it more like Blue or like the TV show Blue and stuff like
well,
that?
most of it's you're getting into spoiler territory. I
Okay,
guess it does kind of get all over the place, honestly. It's not just in St. Louis, but the first arc is entirely in St. Louis and then
okay,
sort of branches out from there.
okay.
But yeah, I picked St. Louis because St. Louis kind of has it's kind of got a kind of a sour vibe to it culturally. I mean, I probably shouldn't, but maybe that sour is the wrong word, but um,
Central vibe. It's got a central
stressed
vibe.
out. Yeah, I don't know. Like Kansas City, you couldn't have the same kind of rundown urban vibe because it's just, I mean, even though it has plenty of, it's more like it's more of a golden retriever of a city than St. Louis, I guess, even though it definitely
Okay.
still has problems. I'm not saying that it doesn't have lots of problems, but it seems like the vibe's just different there for
Okay.
some reason.
And then now you're saying like with that, you're going to also start looking at the mythologies of your characters as well. So like, what type are we able to talk? I don't want to ruin it too much, but are
Well,
we able to talk
we can
about
go
what type
in.
of
Yeah.
characters we'll see in this?
Oh, okay. I can run you down. I mean, there's aside from Larry and Mimi, who are the two main characters, um, there's Mabelina, who is on the team. She thinks she's a fake psychic, but she actually is a real psychic in that she's always attracted to the wrong decision. So they kind of keep her around as a reverse canary in a coal mine. If
Okay.
she's like, yeah, let's go do that. That sounds like a good plan. They're like, no, 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 no. All right, like we do something else. And if she's like a sour asshole, they're like, yes, this is great. So she's kind of like the Frank Reynolds of the group, where she's just sort of doing what she's doing with complete disregard for, civility or whatever. But she's very attracted to wrong decisions. And that's just based off a couple of people I've met in my life where it was just like you guaranteed to go for the wrong thing every single time. Um, Tiny Tim's about this big, and they use him for wet work. He's great at planting bugs and stuff like that.
Okay.
He's not the most intellectual guy, but he's all right. He's nice. And that Hermes is he's a 3,000-year-old god who's just sort of hanging out. He just won't retire. He's very old at this point, but he just won't retire. And then there's Lisa, who's the normie. She's just there as punishment, really, and so she has to learn to adapt to this insane world as from the perspective of somebody who doesn't start out with any special abilities whatsoever. So that's the basic rundown. There's the jerk police captain, all that. I mean, it plays with a lot of the stereotypes of cop stuff, right? Especially 80s cop movies. There's definitely some
Okay.
80s cop movie stuff in there. I mean, I don't want to act like it's just a series of references, but when you're trying to explain what's going on, I guess it's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
But
It gives them more the relatable feel, right? So I mean, if
yeah,
people can kind of draw from already things that they know, it kind of really grounds the book and brings it to life.
hopefully that's the idea, is that there's enough there that you recognize that you can you take the stuff that's weird with it.
Oh.
So
No, and so like, what type of magic spells are we going to see? Are you able to say that? I don't want to ruin it too much. I just want to kind of delve
well,
into a little bit of what people would see.
there's all kinds of magic in the world. So it's there's all sorts of things. But what Larry and Mimi do is hermetic magic, which is more of the classic. The wand. You don't actually have to have a wand. It's more of a meditative focus thing. But you're basically just using sheer willpower to alter the reality around you, and that's
Okay.
what their main thing is. Um, there's counter magic to that. I have later on. It's sort of based on quantum physics, but there's eyes that you can put in place, and then the eye will prevent you from changing reality because you're observing it so hard that you can't do anything with it, and that shuts down magic. So it's like an anti-magic defense system. But anything. There are not a lot of rules with it, except that it costs something to do the magic.
Yeah, and I mean,
Right.
I've heard that storyline in like other literatures where magic always has a cost, right? So I love it that you kind of give it a limitation so that people can't just go buck wild and say, it brings a premise to it.
Yeah, you got to be really careful with it because, like, if you can be too loose where anything can happen, so nothing's interesting. But I also feel like I've seen examples where there's too many rules with it, like with Brandon Sanderson's Metal series, where I'm like, okay, you can stop telling me the exact mix of elements that he just drank, please, for Christ's sake. You know, I'm tired hearing about it. It's magic. I get it. Let's move on. But he just, feels compelled every time. Then they mix it this way and they mix it, right? So you don't want it to be too rigid that you can't have fun with it, but you also can't be so freeform that there's just no reason you shouldn't, anything bad ever happens.
Yeah,
right.
It takes away from like the thick of it, if you will, the big juicy part of the story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, I mean, this is pretty minor, but like in Harry Potter, the Weasleys are supposed to be poor, but all they need to do to build a house or make food or anything is shout some bad Latin and wave a stick around. How does poverty exist when you can do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody? So there has to be limits to it or some sort of thing to keep it from just kind of getting completely out of control.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So the big thing is you have your main protagonists, and you basically went with like I believe it's Larry Slaughter, right? And then Mimi is the other character. Are you reflecting these two characters on people that you've ever met in your life, or are these kind of like the embodiments of things to come, if you will?
They're not specifically based on people I know in my life. No. Well, no. They're basically they're sort of they're intentionally parodies of Harry Potter and Mimi, or Hermione rather. And they started out that way, and then the parodic element sort of drifted out. It became less important as I went along, and as I went along, I mean by like issue 4. But it starts. I view it kind of like a Venture Brothers thing, where it's taking all the
inspiration
action cartoons of the '60s and sort of doing a satire on that, or so they're basically based off of those people, which are essentially I'm sort of using them as millennial stand-ins, right? Like because everyone's saw those movies, right? So they're going to be able to identify with them. In that way, or identify with the parody of them, and then feel the exhaustion and the tiredness that they feel now, and hopefully, it'll resonate.
And in creating these stories and in creating these characters, I'm sure that like with juggling between your day job and this, it could. I know that you were like plugging away, but take me through like the stressors that you've actually dealt with when creating this book. Like I'm sure that between work and play, it's a struggle.
The writing part is the fun part. I don't have I like the part where I'm banging around in notebooks figuring things out and then writing. The parts I'm not as big a fan of is editing, which isn't that big of a deal, but I still don't like to I would rather write than edit. But the realities of the industry are what are the stressors, right? It costs so much money to do this. It costs so much money to print it. Nobody you have to establish yourself on Kickstarter before anyone will actually look at you, no matter what you're doing. And so artists flake out on you all the time, and they have seemingly endless amounts of drama in their life. Most of them. I mean, I've had to fire at least one person because they just would never actually do anything. And there's always some story. You'd think that it's amazing some of them haven't died yet. From all the times they get COVID or what have you, right? So hard to go up, but so dealing with the industry and actually getting all the stuff around actually making the comic, except for the writing, is the stressor, basically for me at least.
And I mean, I get the you can't control other people, right? So it's like it sucks because like you hire people for a specific duty and you hope to meet these deadlines, and when it doesn't. I get it. are you openly right now like looking for artists? Because like I have between my Icon Comic Con, and some other social influencer type stuff. I actually have a lot of artists on there. So if you're looking for some, don't worry. I'll definitely get you some good names that are really reliable.
Well, I'm not. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm not trying to say that I'm replacing Rachel. She's been great. I mean, I do have other projects I want to, find artists for, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, shoot me the names. Yeah, it's just like the first 9 months of me trying to do this was wasted on this one guy. I'm not going to say his name because I don't even remember it at this point. And that's who I'm mostly still mad at. Like,
Yeah. But now you met Rachel.
But yeah, and I think she's really captured the exact aesthetic that I want for SWAT, and she's doing it. It's hard for everybody in the industry. I mean, the artists they're not getting paid that much, not really. They have to have jobs of their own, and they've got their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's anybody who's trying to make comics is doing it for the love of making comics, and because it sure ain't for the money, and
sometimes your passion isn't for the money until it is, so
yeah,
the love of it and the love that you're putting into it is really kind of the premise to explain what's kind of going on here, right? And I kind of wanted to bring that out. So like, all the pains and things that you ran into, what are some key things of advice that you could kind of give fellow writers, comic book creators that you've either are going to see in the future or you're going to inspire? What kind of advice would you give them if you were talking to yourself a couple of years ago to get started?
Well, I mean, edit first, like have your script ready to go before the artist, because yeah, you definitely don't want to pay for art that you have to pay to get redone, right? And but as far as writing goes, remove redundancy. Like if you can get everything in your writing that serves no purpose out, you're probably going to be at least okay. People kind of naturally flood their writing with irrelevancies, or they kind of waffle. They say, it was hot, or it was, something, and they try to take both ways. Just get rid of that habit. Pick one, do it. And in comics, do the most of the time, right? Subtle is not what we're doing here. But just kind of put yourself in a position to be embarrassed. What I really love about comics is that it's so free, right? Like you can have just the weirdest stuff ever, and everyone just loves it. Like in Saga, there's a race of robot people who have cathode ray TV heads and also dicks, and they're just doing all kinds of. I mean, it's just a completely insane series, and everyone loves it. They don't question it, and that's what I really like about comics is at the same time you have 21, 22 pages for an issue. You have to tell a chapter of a story in this space. But so it's very structured in one way, but it's also completely free ball in the other. And there's an expectation that you're going to be weird, and that's what I love about it. So be ridiculous. Just go all out. Don't hide. If you're not putting yourself in a position for somebody to laugh at you, if there's not somebody who doesn't read books going, "Oh, that's just stupid," you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's great advice. I mean, you always got to take the chance, right? So like you got to be able to be open to be embarrassed, to be open to give your experiences and your passions, right? So I definitely appreciate a lot of the advice that you're giving people, and the fact that, you are taking those steps to create these type of stories that, as time goes on, you'll definitely see, people, because I've seen some creators, they have people, fans, like they're cosplaying with their characters, and that would be awesome. So like if you wanted to like have somebody cosplay one of your characters, which character would be the funniest? I mean, Tiny Tim, of course, is too tiny, but you could probably have a bigger version of him. But
well,
who would you want to cosplay?
Out of the first arc, there's a character called Praise God Bare Bones. And he's a monster. He's basically Slender Man. So he's about 7 feet tall, Morphan syndrome, can shoot shadowy tentacles out and strangle people and that kind of. He's a cool guy though. He doesn't like to do that. He's a monster unwillingly. He just feels like he's a monster because he's weird looking, and it can do that. And so I think he'd be really fun to cosplay. Um, there's also other characters. Like later on in the series, there's a character called Count von Zollen, who's basically a goblin accountant. And so he sails the high seas, auditing people and then taking their stuff. So I imagine that would be a fun one to, kind of dress up as some sort of weird accountant pirate guy. That would be an option. There's actually, the more you think about it, like, yeah, it's such a weird series, man. There's so many different things going on.
That's
By the
awesome.
time Volume 36 is done, there's going to be options.
So I know that we're expecting it soon. So I'll make sure that we capture some of the links. If people want to follow you, they want to be able to support you. Again, I just want to be able to reiterate the links. So you're on Facebook as
Justin Koch.
And your website
is weirdshark.art. And then I'm also Justin Koch on Blue Sky. So justinkoch.bsky.social.
Okay.
I'm not on Twitter or anything. I guess I kind of am on Instagram, but not really.
If you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, whether you like it or not sometimes.
Yeah. Blue Sky is where I'm most active. That's where you're going to see the most posting for sure. And so it's got a really great comic scene, I think. I mean, it's legitimately, I don't know about the rest of it, but it seems like there's a really fun indie comic scene there. And I keep running into people that I'm on this scene I'm friends with there, or they're, it seems like it's pretty active.
So now that you're done with book one, right, and you're on social, you get in the feel of everything. When were you going to be expecting book two to come out?
Rachel is working on the last set of pages for it right now. So if she gets that done soon, then we get it off to the letterer. That could be ready to rock. I would love to get it out on Kickstarter by the end of the year for sure. It should be very doable. So it just depends on the tempo of everything. Everything, I mean, like this whole we're getting rid of sexy comics thing coming out the week. I'm about to launch this. Who knows what anything's going to even be in 3 months? It feels like everything's just kind of in the air right now. But I'm going to keep chugging away and make it happen. So
yeah, definitely. No, listen, Justin. I really do appreciate you being on the podcast, kind of giving us a rundown of all the items that are coming your way right now with the Secret Wizard Assault Team, SWAT. Yeah. And I'll make sure that everybody gets your links and are able to follow you and support you. We'll definitely want to see more as you grow the series and kind of follow along. Do you have any final last words that you want to leave people with as we kind of close out this interview?
I don't know. It really is. I mean, I threw everything into it. I mean, it is. You might not like it, but it's everything. I was laying it out on the deck, man. Right. So it's definitely me trying my hardest. So hopefully that's interesting to somebody. So.
No, but Justin, thank you very much. I do appreciate you. Everybody, this is the Behind the Comic Book podcast with Mr. 845 Social, and all because of Icon Comic-Con supporting the independents. If you guys want to check out more episodes, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We kind of post some of it on all that, but mostly on YouTube. We'll have the full episodes, so definitely check them out. We launch them every Wednesday at 12 noon. Justin, again, thank you very much for allowing me to interview you. And everybody, we'll check you out on the scene. Let's see who else we can get interview to help these independent artists.